Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. Tonight we are talking about the many faces of Cass. That is Castiel, the angel of the Lord, who plays such a big role in the show, and as do all the recurring characters, gets to evolve and change and show us many different sides and aspects of their personality. But before we dive into that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Lola.
My name's Lola Lariscy, and I've been watching Supernatural since 2005, and I've watched each one of them multiple times, but I have a hard time remembering, so I might get a little bit stuck, but y'all set me straight.
We will. You do just fine. Tawdra.
I'm Tawdra Kandle. I am a romance author living in Central Florida, and I have been watching Supernatural since the 3rd season.
Okay.
I mean, I went backwards, but just to clarify.
Okay. Casey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Caycle LaCorte. I'm a fantasy author. I also work in marketing focused on TikTok and book publishing. I've been watching Supernatural forever. Like, it's kind of my comfort show. It's when you don't know what to watch and you don't have the emotional bandwidth to try something new. I kind of always go back to Supernatural. So I think I've been through the entire thing at least half a dozen times.
As one does. Sounds perfectly rational to me. Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy. I am a marketing executive for a cybersecurity company and an LGBT activist.
Okay. And I'm Gail Z and Morgan Bryce. I write epic and urban fantasy as Gail, and urban fantasy, male paranormal romance is Morgan, but all my modern worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with Supernatural halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months in time for the start of season 12, fell down the rabbit hole and haven't quit falling, and I hope I never do. So definitely a fan who might be just a wee bit obsessed. So we see Cass make a very dramatic entrance in season 4. And Kripke and many others have said they think it's one of the best character entrances in all of television. And I got to agree. I mean, it's dramatic. We have no idea what's going on. And Dean and Bob here just shooting and shooting and shooting. And this guy keeps coming and the lights are blowing up. And it's pretty dramatic. What were your first thoughts when you saw Cass for that first time? Tawdra?
I just loved, he had the best first line in all of Supernatural. I gripped you tight and pulled you out of perdition. Like, oh. I mean, I just thought, this is awesome. We have another player on the field, and I'm really interested in him. So yeah, I thought he had the best lines and the best delivered lines. Just that, straight, very serious. This is who I am. I am an angel of the Lord. And Dean's like, no, no, you're not. I don't believe in that. So yeah, loved it.
And I love that we've heard since then that he thought he was only going to be on for a few episodes, so he pitched his voice really low and gravelly and got stuck with it for the next 10 years. So, Casey.
Yeah, I was smitten kind of from the get-go. He popped on, and I because they didn't know what it was. It wasn't an angel. There's no such thing as angels. Da 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 da. And then knowing some of the lore and stuff just through other fantasy and other mythology and stuff. And I was like, I know it's an angel. I know it's an angel. And then it popped up, and I was like, yes, I was right. And he was hot. So bonus all around. But it was very it just seemed so intense and so all powerful. And I'm like, oh my God, they are so in trouble at this point. It's just, how do you fight an angel? And I was very curious. It really piqued my curiosity to see what angle they were going to go with, because he's got a string of bodies leading up to the reveal of accidental murders, essentially, of trying to reveal himself and burning people's eyes out and whatnot. And so I'm just like, you kind of immediately know it's not the fluffy, white, happy-go-lucky angels that it could have been. So I was super excited.
Amy.
I really loved the fact that it was immediately apparent from like the first glance that he was not human. That was instant, just from the way that Misha moved through that entrance and responded to stimuli going through there. It was a very kind of detached, kind of, isn't that interesting kind of experience, especially when Dean stabs him in the chest and he just kind of looks down at it and is like, and amused and pulls it back out. It was very quickly apparent just from the way that he was moving and the way that everything moved around him, that the character was going to be significant and that it was definitely not human.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was extremely intimidating. There's certainly a lot of pop culture about angels being guardians and on, you know, an angel on your shoulder. And then we had the Michael Landon series with, you know, and Cass is much more close to some of the ancient texts where the angels never really did anything for humans that they weren't ordered to do. They didn't come down here to solve people's problems or save people or fix things. They came down here to carry messages, smite people, and carry out orders. And so I thought, you know, my feeling on this was, holy crap, this guy is going to be trouble because he's super powerful and he doesn't look like he's on their side. This is scary. He's going to be bad news. And it was just, wow, this is not immediately what you think of as a friend. So let's see what's going to happen.
I really like the biblical aspect of it in that angels are not good guys in the Bible. They are not fluffy little cherubs who are here wearing diapers and playing harps. They are badasses and they're soldiers, you know, they're soldiers carrying out the orders of God. And in most things that we see angels in, they're very benign and kind of peaceful and kind of above it all. And immediately from this appearance and moving forward, it's immediately established that these are not the good guys.
Yeah, and the most benign thing that angels do, at least in the Christian scriptures, is they're the messengers at the birth of Christ. You know, hark the herald angels sing. And now that we know that that was Gabriel, it does sort of track. Yeah, most of the rest of the time it's pillar of salt, you know, nuke the firstborn. And they're pretty bloodthirsty about it when they do it. No second chances. So yeah, we don't get that soulless corporate angle until a little later. But we definitely, like you said, Amy, get this is not human, doesn't play by our rules, and damn, he's scary.
Yeah.
Lola?
When he first said, I am an angel of the Lord, I was like, okay, he doesn't work for us. He works for God. I was like, okay, he's not going to be on our side. He's not going to be, you know, trying to save us from all manner of foe for the whole time. He works for God and we're just kind of in the way. And one of the things about angels is they see our lifetimes as little. And, you know, if we get killed, we're going hopefully to heaven anyway, so it won't bother us. They don't see our lives and our feelings as anything substantial. It's not even a blip on their radar. And when he came out and said that, I felt all of that in that moment. We're nothing to the angels.
Yeah, our behavior is not that significant to them either. They have very little concept of the things that we consider to be like sinful or bad or having anything to do with the behaviors that Christian churches often prescribe for their followers. They're like, that stuff doesn't matter. We don't know anything about it. And you keep doing your silly little human things over here in a corner.
That's below their pay grade.
Yeah,
they got other stuff to worry about.
Yeah. Now, season 4 cast, again, going forward with that, the angels aren't the good guys here. He's here with a mission. He, you know, his first words to Sam is, oh, the boy with the demon blood, which just crumples Sam because this is the Winchester who actually still prayed and believed, and wow, okay. And he does his very best to drive a wedge between Sam and Dean for the purposes of heaven and getting Sam, getting Dean to say yes to Michael and jump starting the apocalypse. And in retrospect, you can see some of those things, like letting Sam out of the panic room and not letting Dean out of the, some things that happen there. What else strikes you looking back at season 4, Sam? Casey.
Okay, somebody else go first, because I watched them in such large chunks. I have a hard time remembering season to season. So somebody else go first, and then I'll pick up where we are.
Okay, Amy.
I'm in the middle of a rewatch right now. I am not a big Sam fan, but I have noticed throughout that, the most striking thing I can see is that Castiel takes these actions based on the orders or, implications that are given to him by heaven, and then regrets them. And that's not something that other angels really have as part of their personality. And it's a really good example of the earliest aspects of his tremendous character arc, where he just simply becomes more human right up until the moment when he dies. And that's like the very beginning of it. He lets Sam out of the panic room. He feels bad about it. He doesn't respond to a call when Sam calls for him, and he doesn't come. But he comes when Dean calls. He feels kind of bad about it. It's a very interesting start to his progression.
Yeah. And I think that he was not human enough, or as not human enough as he becomes later on, to, I'm not sure that those things done in season 4 were out of malice. It was more, I'm following orders and there's a greater good here. And so what if I let him out of the panic room? We're supposed to start the apocalypse anyhow. So what if I drive a wedge between him and Dean? Well,
yeah,
they have to be separated.
And that's an important thing, is that when he, just as he sits with Dean on that bench, he's starting to have doubts. And every time he takes an action that his superiors order him to do that is not beneficial for Dean and, for stopping the apocalypse, is something that, mostly Dean, is something that he kind of regrets afterwards. And he's starting to see that maybe this is not following these orders is not the best course of action, which is revolutionary for an angel.
Yeah, because he doesn't have much knowledge about humanity itself, but he's got this one example of it in front of him. And he learns from seeing that person's reactions to the consequences of Castiel's actions. And that makes for some very interesting self-revelation. Lola?
Well, okay, so I rewatched one of the season 4 episodes today. It was the one where Jimmy wakes up and he ends up having, his family finally believes him and all that stuff. And I just remember at the end, Castiel has been shot up to heaven, so he hasn't been around. But then finally he possesses little Claire, and you can see, he's come back and he's like, well, you need to make a choice, Jimmy. And Jimmy's like, take me. And it's like, we're back, baby. He's back in Jimmy. And so everything's right in the world. So the mission seemed to really be trying to get Castiel back into Jimmy and trying to make everything right.
Okay. Tawdra?
I think season 4 for me is kind of like what Amy said. It's Cass starting to realize what the world really is, and not only humans but his fellow angels. And he's just realizing that that there might be more than what he has experienced and thinks and has known. And I think he starts to empathize with Dean And I also think he has trouble understanding the fact that Dean is always going to have that soft spot for Sam, no matter what Sammy does. You know, he's going to do anything to save him. And I think in season 4, he's just beginning to see the glimmer of what that brotherhood really is. And it's so cool because then later on, he actually, I think he becomes like the third brother in a sense. So, but he's just beginning to see the glimmer of it then.
Okay, Casey.
Yeah, I think in season 4 is when that's like you just said, he starts to question heaven, which for an angel is ridiculous. Like, it's just unheard of. You just don't do it. And that is 100% because of his relationship with Dean and watching Dean's relationship with Sam. I think if any of those parts had been missing, I don't think the series of events would have worked out. He sees and I don't even know if he feels really guilty for what he does. It's more like he just sees the consequences of it on a human level, not of apocalypse, angels, war, more of this is this person I kind of like, and I hurt them by doing this other thing I was supposed to do. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like that, but I don't know why I don't like that. Like, it was the very beginning of him starting to question the rule of heaven and the apocalypse and his role as an angel. So I think it was really just the beginning of it.
And that's the process that ends us up in the beautiful room. That's when the big break happens. It starts with Castiel on a park bench. I am having doubts, and Dean really going into, what about the people here? What about the humans? Let me show you how this affects the people, at which all leads up to escaping the beautiful room with Dean and completely going on the run.
Going rogue.
Yeah, totally going rogue against heaven. And it's interesting to see him do that, because it's clear throughout all of the series that he uses Dean as a behavior model, because that's like his human to like model himself on.
He imprinted on Dean.
Yeah,
He was like
a duckling.
My person, I saved them, and I'm gonna follow them around. And
right. I don't know what to do. What would Dean do?
God, such a bad example.
Kind of like a sketch when you put it that way.
Yeah.
This is my family. Yeah. So season 5 cast. They've defied heaven. They've still got the apocalypse looming. The angels are still trying all kinds of stuff to make it happen. And then you've got Cass. Lola, season 5 Cass? You're muted.
So the funny thing is, I didn't take an overall view like what we're doing. I just watched certain episodes. So I'm going to talk about a specific episode in season 5, which is one of my favorites. And it's not really canon, I guess, because in the end, it probably never happens. But it's, what's the name of it? The End. When we go 5 years in the future, because Zacharias sends him to see what happens if he doesn't say yes to Michael. And Cass is so different. I love it so much. He's basically very human. He's basically, LSD tripping, some kind of 60s guy at this point. And he's trying to have an orgy, and he just doesn't care because he's human. And of course, this is actually, when you think about it, it's kind of an arc, because he's so disdainful of humans. He's like, I'm basically human now. And Dean says, welcome to the club. And he says, yeah, but I was part of a much better club. So it's like, wow, man, ouch, really? So I guess he's still, even though he's more human and he's more relatable and friends with guys and everything, he still kind of has that I'm above the human thing, even though he probably doesn't even realize it. But yeah, I loved that particular episode because it showed a side of Castiel that we probably wouldn't see if it hadn't been like way after the apocalypse. It was a fun episode because they really got to act completely different. And we just got to see a fun Castiel, which we don't get to see at all.
I feel like that's the episode we got to see a little bit of Misha.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too, because it was just really relaxed and just flowing and just going slow and moving and everything.
That felt very Misha. But what you said too about it's it's like he's resigned to like, I made a choice and now I'm stuck here and it sucks and it was the wrong choice, but here I am. Like, it was very much not like I'm with people. It was like, and now I'm stuck with you guys and everything sucks and we're all gonna die.
And he's seen everything fall apart. I mean, Dean's turned into a hideous torturer and Sam's turned into the devil, and everything that he aspired to that was like, yay, humanity, has fallen to rubble. And so he's kind of done, and he just wants to smoke pot all day. And who hasn't been there? Really? Let's talk about who hasn't been there. So I kind of related to him.
And the afterward part of that, there's, you know, when Dean says, don't ever change, it's a very direct parallel to Castiel's last moments when he says, you changed me.
Yeah.
You know, it's full circle. That to, you know, from stay exactly as you are, which after seeing what happened in the end, Dean's like, holy shit, this can never happen, you know, to that explanation at the very end is really a cool journey.
It was a wake-up call for Dean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the end reminds me of somebody who like used to be fabulously wealthy and then lived in a mansion and then lost it all and ends up like in a really crappy trailer park, and they can't forget what they used to have, so they still kind of act like they're slumming, but this is where they are now.
It's kind of like a Robert Downey Jr. vibe. Like he's got this scruffy, you know, facial hair and everything, and he's just off being sarcastic, you know, on the side, and you know, he doesn't care if the world burns anymore.
And Jensen smart alecking himself in there is brilliant. Oh, we're torturing again. That's good. You know, that's just so funny.
That was awesome. Yeah, they're and then Cass said, "I like past Dean. I like past Dean too, much better than future Dean." Woo.
Tawdra, how about you?
I agree with everything. I think the ultimate expression of who Cass has become in season 5 is in my favorite episode of all time, is the Swan Song, and just, you know, how he is fully on the human side, and then, you know, goes right along with Dean, and then when he's resurrected, we just get this hint of what's coming next, because he has the power and he's able to you know, heal Bobby, and he heals Dean with a touch, and we just know he's got more juice. There's something else coming next. So
Okay, season 6, who wants to jump in first on that? Because we've got Cass back with the juice, but he goes astray, and by the end of the season, he's thinking about being God. He's gonna choke down those leviathans in purgatory. He becomes Godsteel.
It's sad with that because he's watching Dean kind of rake the leaves, and Cass is kind of on his own because he's broken from heaven. So he's not really going to follow, you know, orders from there. Yet Dean is his model for humanity, and he doesn't have Dean to model. So, you know, to use as a model. So he's stuck, which, as has happened to many of us in our lifetime, has led to making a series of bad choices, which is exactly, that was a very human path to go down, you know, just a series of terrible choices that ended you up in a really bad place.
So question for you, one of Cass's big actions in season 6 is we find out that he's the one who has brought Sam back, but he brings him back without his soul. Now, at one point, he says he doesn't know how Sam came back, and he later says he didn't realize he didn't have a soul. What's your headcanon on this? Did he bring Sam back without a soul on purpose? Was there a reason for that? And if not, how could he not know that Sam's soul was missing? Anybody got a headcanon theory on that? Because that's a hard one for me.
I think he 100% brought as much of Sam back as he could. I feel like he couldn't get them all back. Some is better than none. He knew he was soulless, but I don't think he knew what that would mean.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was an epic fuck up on Castiel's part that he was like, oh, sure, he has a soul. Yes, it's in there somewhere.
Fine, 100% warranted, good to go.
Yeah. Not wanting to
That's the top of Sam. This is
exactly
beat this one.
Terrible mistake. It was like, oh no, this is fine. Like we've all done when once again we make really bad mistakes, which is kind of the theme of this whole season for Castiel.
I got a little frustrated. I think this is my least favorite season for Castiel.
Yeah.
But I think I figured out why. Because I think if you look at the arc, the overall arc of Castiel, this is his growing pain season. This is his adolescence. Because, before it was like he was figuring out who he was figuring out whose side he was going to be on. And like you said, he's kind of away from the guys now. He's off on his own. This is like his preteen phase where no one can tell him anything because he already knows it all. He's doing he's doing all these things for you, but you don't actually want him to do it. Like I feel like this is his kind of ugly duckling preteen, you can't tell me nothing phase.
Yeah.
It's a little frustrating. It's a lot frustrating actually.
He's
Because
16 and getting in a lot of trouble.
make a mistake. And you're looking at it going, that is such a bad decision. No, it'll be fine. It'll be great. I'm doing this for you. I'm saving you. No, you're not. Oh God, stop it. And he keeps, and you're just like, okay, at some point, he's going to figure out that this is a really bad idea. At some point,
And they
pull him back from the brink, and then it just all.
Exactly. And they keep compounding. Every time he tries to fix it, it gets worse. So,
It's like you broke the handle on the toilet, so you fake it, but then that messes up the plumbing, which then throws the lid off and cracks the lid on the toilet. It's like every time they try and fix it so they don't get caught, it just gets worse and worse.
yeah.
It's like when you walk away from, the printer or something and think, well, someone else will fix it. And then you look back and toner and paper's flying everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and don't forget, season 6 was the first non-Kripke Sarah Gamble year. The whole show was finding its new stride. And I think at a number of junctures throughout the show, Cass kind of became the convenient plot device. How are we going to fix this? Oh, Cass has power this week. How are we going to keep it from being too easy? Oh, Cass doesn't have power this week. How do we keep this from being, how can this have tension? Cass is not around to answer. How do we get them out of this jam? Oh, Cass is suddenly back. That's the writers. That's not the character. And I think there is some of that sprinkled through some of the weaker episodes throughout the whole rest of the show, is that, as with many other things, sometimes there's just not canon consistency. And you can look for it and you can retcon it and you can do fix-it fan fiction. But sometimes the writers just screw up. Tawdra, any thoughts on season 6?
It was my least favorite too. And I think just because there was that tension between the boys, and that Cass is not being honest, and that he's off, not with them, and he's working against them, and they're asking questions, and he, I remember, I don't know which episode it was, but when they actually realized that he is lying to them, and you can just see Dean he's betrayed. He's really trusted Cass, and he's just betrayed. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it was the weakest season, writing wise. In addition to, there's some good standouts. There's still some great standout eps, but yeah, it was not my favorite. That in the beginning of season 7, I was like, yeah.
Well, and season 6 ends with Cass destroying Sam's wall, which is, it makes sense for where they're going with season 7. But yeah, it's really hard for Dean to forgive. It's hard for viewers to forgive, because that's such a malicious act that causes Sam so much pain. It's that one's a hard one for the writers to have tossed us on a character we're supposed to like. Lola, you were going to say something.
My favorite episode of season 6 barely had Cass. It's the French Mistake. So
But we got Misha.
Yeah, we got Misha. You're right. We got Misha, and that could go along with the many faces of Cass, I guess. So yeah, Misha was awesome in that. I love the whole tweeting thing. It's like, I am eating dinner now. I love to tweet. And then Jen going, Misha's dead. And the boys going, where? So yeah, Misha and that was great. So they could have done the whole season of that and I would have been happy.
Hola, mis amigos. Yeah. So season 7, another Sarah Gamble finding their stride kind of mishmash season, but we've got Godsteel, we've got Cass learning a difficult lesson. Anybody want to jump in on this one? I'm not sure. Is season 7 anybody's favorite? Anyone? I'm not sure. It's kind of one of those. I always tell people
it's not my favorite, but
there's some good episodes.
I like Dick Roman.
Yeah.
I like the puns they get to make with him because I'm actually a 12-year-old boy. Like I like butt jokes and stuff like that. So like it's just funny. I think the them going back to being the actors and that was one of my favorite episodes. So there were a few gems in there. The whole Leviathan thing wasn't, the monsters themselves, that whole thing wasn't, just not one of my favorites, but I still enjoyed it.
And for me, it's an important precursor to getting to one of my favorite places, which is purgatory. So.
True.
Well, and with me this season, I'm looking at the different episodes. My favorite ones weren't really about Cass. The girl with the Dungeons and Dragons tattoo and Party on Garth. I'm like, they featured other people. And I'm like, well, what's going on with Cass? Maybe they did him dirty this season.
Tawdra?
I was agreeing with Lola's favorites. I love that one too. I mean, we get Charlie in this season, so we really can't hate it completely. And Garth was just hysterical. Yeah, some of my favorites came. I liked Cass just because it was a personal thing. I loved Cass going into different places and telling like the churches, no, you've got it wrong. You know, you're complete. I mean, he's like falling apart, body parts are falling off him, but he's still saying, you know, you've got it all wrong here. Yeah, it's probably not the best Cass season, but it's got its redeeming value.
Well, and we saw Cass working with Crowley. So, you know, how the mighty have fallen to have him, you know, first be so righteous and then, okay, I can make some exceptions to help the Winchesters and, well, okay, humanity's okay. And, oh, well, it's a demon. He's on speed dial. You know, we can work together. Going into season 8, and Amy, here's your purgatory season.
I loved this season. It was really, really good. I loved the whole back and forth that went on where purgatory was. I would have liked a few episodes in purgatory, but I also loved the constant flashbacks to it as a way to build the story, because building that story backwards and then adding other pieces to it was a really interesting storytelling device that they used. And leading up to, you know, leading through the mind control portions and then wondering, you know, how many of Cass's actions in the past were based on, you know, Naomi tinkering with his brain and him not even knowing about it the way that no one really did, but apparently
I hated her so much
all the time. She was delightfully terrible. Like I hated her, but at the same way, what a great character.
She was the Dolores Umbridge of the season.
Yeah. It was very, I liked that, and I liked how all of that worked and how that went through. It was a really, really good growth arc for Dean that I loved. And having Castiel going through a journey at that time too is, you know, really made it very robust.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on season 8 Cass?
I also enjoyed the purgatory storyline, and then just the whole Naomi thing, like just hate her. Love Benny. Yes. I love Castiel's jealousy of Benny.
Yes.
I think that's adorable. But yeah, I'm really glad they did not tell Purgatory's the story for Purgatory in a straightforward linear timeline, because I think it would have lagged. Or because you know, Purgatory was very much a lot of the same thing. It was about fighting, about survival, and I think if you just had too much of that back to back, it would have dragged it down. So I agree. They did that the way it needed to be done. But yeah, just it really makes you feel bad for Cass, of the mind control and how much of his life is his own, because free will is very much a human concept. So if you think of it in the true angel fashion, he never had any expectation of privacy. He never had any expectation of free will. He's an angel. He is a soldier and servant of the Lord. He had no, who cares if we tinker with your mind and wipe it and make you redo it? That's our choice. We do that because you're not a human. You don't have free will. And so like, I think that kind of smacks you in the face with that a little bit, but you feel really bad for him.
Yeah, and post-purgatory Cass and post-purgatory Dean are like such awesome new phases for those characters. Like that's really, there's a dividing line right there between where you get a new Castiel and a new Dean after purgatory, right? It's season 8 is when that all clicks in, and it's pretty awesome.
Go ahead, Todd.
Season 8 put me off at the beginning because I hated the Sam flashbacks. As much as I loved the Dean and Cass purgatory ones, the Sam flashbacks were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Jerry was too, just to be, he has said he hated the Amelia arc and he did not like that. I think we all agreed that was just a hallucination and it didn't happen.
Yeah. We basically made it a drinking game in our family. We're like, oh my gosh, he's going to do it again. He would get this look on his face, but yeah, the mind control Cass, I hated that for him. I hated that for him as a character. I understood why it was necessary, understood why it moved the story forward. But as somebody who loves Cass, I hated it for him because I felt like, again, he was being forced to be at odds with the boys. So yeah, for that. So
Lola, any thoughts on season 8?
Well, I'm looking at all the synopsises, and the only one that I can remember that I liked with Castiel that really stood out to me with Castiel is the one where it's kind of like cartoons. And
Funny.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the synopsis of that. I'm like, yeah, I remember I liked that. And Castiel tries to be a hunter and they end up in this wacky retirement home with all the shenanigans going on. So that's the only one that really stands out to me regarding Cass. Otherwise, I remember stuff involving the other characters, but nothing really big on Cass for that season. Okay.
Then season 9. Now we've gotten post purgatory. We've got a lot of stuff going on in season 9 and a lot of people at cross purposes. Thoughts on Cass in season 9? Jump in, anybody.
So this is like where we're getting, I'd say, our 4th Castiel is when the tablets start coming into play and when the gates of hell and heaven thing happens. Castiel kind of tries to save everyone in like one move, which is really not possible. He once again tries to like achieve the impossible, and it's just it's very telling. I mean, we get a lot more Naomi, but a lot of seeing how the factions are at odds through that is really telling.
Yeah, we definitely get to see more of corporate heaven as evil corporation.
Yes.
And right down to the bad suits and the group think, and anybody who's worked for an evil corporation recognized it immediately. But what else? Anybody else have any strong thoughts on?
Okay, so I'm making sure I'm on the right spot. Season 9 is when angels get banished from, like, get kicked out of heaven by Metatron.
At the end, yeah, at the end of season 9,
he shuts that down. That happens at the end. Like, I felt, because it was
fall at the end of season 8 when
because of Castiel's work with Metatron, who like, you know what, is there ever such a good character, like such a good actor, that if you see the actor does the character so well, so bad, that if you see him on the street, I would cross the street to smack him, like just the actor. Like, it's like, I know you're not him, but
are you talking about Metatron?
Yeah.
Booger!
You could see like Metatron's talking and Castiel's like, yeah, okay, I can do this. Yeah, okay, I can do this. And I'm like, don't do it. Please don't do it.
When we're going through like all of the different angel factions at war, and there's the cool opening with the bus, like, of choir girls that go into the biker bar and slaughter everyone inside.
That was
Yes,
awesome.
those of us who grew up with that song will never hear it the same way again.
Exactly.
Tawdra and Lola, season 9, other thoughts?
I'm just having a hard time remembering. The seasons run in together for me. So come back to me, please.
That
Okay.
happens to me all the time because I watch them. Like, I don't even know what season I'm on. I just know I'm like 4 episodes that day.
Yeah, I just remember big arcs like, oh yeah, that's, you know, purgatory. Oh, that's when we're in heaven and Stargate was there. And, you know, I remember things like that, but.
Well,
Yeah.
Dean takes the mark of Cain at, in the
Yeah.
middle of season 9.
Yeah.
And then, we have the whole battle with Metatron at the end, and Dean's killed and wakes up with black eyes. And so that's a real shocker. And of course, Cass isn't there to save him. Cass isn't there when when his body disappears. Sam's trying to summon everybody and nobody's coming.
That part at the end where they're running through the bunker and Castiel kind of grabs him up right as he is trying to, right as Dean's trying to kill Sam. Castiel grabs him up and holds him tight. It's such a good scene, just in the way that it was shot, and like, just it's very apparent, like that Dean is completely out of control, and they don't know what to do, and Sam and Cass are flummoxed, and everything has just gone directly to hell, but not in the good way, like in the bad way. So that's really interesting, because human Castiel that season is my least favorite Castiel.
Wait,
So,
isn't that gas station Castiel?
yes, it's my least favorite
Like the
one.
Slurpees and the thing, and he meets the lady, and yeah,
It's
that's,
my least favorite one. I'm glad it's not very long.
he's very flaccid.
Yeah.
He's just kind of,
How
Well,
you work at a gas station, you're just looking at all the bright lights and the shelves of Coca-Cola, and then the same people coming in. It's very placid.
Mhm,
yeah, but and he's beating himself up too
mhm.
about
Yeah.
everything that happened.
And that's a great segue into season 10, because that's when, Cass stops Demon Dean from, Mark of Cain Dean from killing Sam. And in a real way, that is also gripping him tight and saving him from perdition, because Dean never would have forgiven himself when he finally came back and realized he'd killed Sam. That would have been it. He never would have gotten over that. So Cass really saves both of them in that scene. And we get a lot of Cass kind of trying to be the mediator between Metatron and heaven and the boys, and there's a lot of push and pull there. Any other thoughts on season 10? Tawdra?
I personally clapped when Metatron died. Anyone else totally happy about that?
Toast. Cheers.
Yes.
Mazel.
I think season 10 is to the realization, Cass's maybe ultimate realization that good and bad are not what he thought they were, because Crowley helps him out, and he's just, I don't know, it's a big step on his arc.
Well,
Okay.
and this is when Dean's falling into the mark, like fully, and like he attacks Cass.
Yep.
And like beats the holy hell out of him.
That parallels back to Cass beating him up in the crypt, as well as during that time you get the I'm gonna be the one that has to watch you murder the world. When Castiel explains the Longview is that all these other creatures will be dead, but Dean won't, and Castiel will have to watch him just destroy the world, and he doesn't want to. And he's going to do his best to protect him from doing that again, once again, snatching him up out of perdition.
So season 11, we've got, Dean's been cured of being a demon, and Cass played a big role in helping Sam be able to do that. But now you've got to break the mark of Cain. And there's a lot going on with that as well. And we see Cass put in a lot of uncomfortable positions, especially regarding, Rowena and trying to sneak around behind Dean's back, use the Book of the Damned, get rid of the mark. Character growth, thoughts about season 11? Cass?
There is a very out of character Cass in an episode in season 11, which is probably one of my biggest bugaboos for like Castiel characterization in the whole show, which is the one where Claire is being trafficked and Dean goes and kills all those people in the house that were trafficking her, and Castiel is horrified, which is completely crazy because he has murdered legions of people for less. And considering, you know, the kind of justice that would be considered by someone like Castiel or any other angel, it completely struck a false note for me for the writers to take that angle, because it's just, no, that's not even possible.
Yeah.
I think
agree.
it's mostly because they weren't monsters. I mean, they were, but not in the literal sense. Like, they were just people.
Yeah,
Isn't
but
that, no, they were the monsters. I was thinking of the guy who had her before he gave her away. Oh, to them. Yeah, because I remember, like, after Dean killed everybody, I had one of those good for him kind of moments. Yeah, I was just like, good for you. Look at you. Good job. And then Castiel was just.
Cass would have been totally on board with that because he'd done it himself a million times in the past. You know, I could see Sam being horrified, and that was the right call. But
Sam, Sam's horrified by everything unless he's doing it.
Yeah, but Cass being horrified was weird.
It didn't make any sense.
So we are actually, you know, coming into the home stretch here time-wise. So seasons 11 through 15, what are your favorite cast memories? Lola?
I don't know, but this is one of the episodes I watched today. Season 12, episode 10, Lily Sunder has some regrets. And this was a big episode for Castiel, because he has to reckon with the fact that he had been duped by another angel, 100% duped, and that he had done something horrible 100 years before in the name of, you know, his team leader, supposedly in the name of God, in the name of the rules of heaven. But not only was it an awful thing to do, but it was wrong. He was wrong. He was being manipulated.
That was a hard episode. Like, I felt so bad, like for everyone involved.
There is a funny part though when Sam and Dean shoved themselves into the side of the booth with him when he's being confronted. That's like one of the funniest things. It's so good.
And I love Alicia Witt. She's one of my favorite actresses, and just it's so heartbreaking because it's like, you know, from the beginning, it's not always as easy as it seems. There's always a story behind the story, and it's like, what's going on? And we got all these, you know, this angel squad of Castiels, and we know that something's going to go on. And I'm sorry, but I'm not an angel. I'm not supernatural, but I could tell something was up with the leader guy. I knew from the moment I saw him, I'm like, he's no good. He's bad news. And the way it was actually an interesting parallel with racist and misogynist, because of the way the team leader was like, these humans, these dirty apes, these dirty humans, why would you ever want to consort with these humans? And then we find out he's in love with a human. So that's some self-hate going on, and it caused him to do horrible things. So he was a nasty guy. Anyways, we got a lot of character development from Castiel. He learned some lessons at the, you know, behest of, unfortunately, poor Lily and her family.
Well, and
it's for me, 15, 18, you made me think about one of my favorite things that Cass did, which was killing Death. Killing Billy when she came for the Winchesters after they got out of the creepy government prison was an awesome scene when he says the world needs as many Winchesters as it can get. That I think was an epically pivotal scene that just shows the entirety of Castiel's character in like one quick sketch.
well, we also get to see Cass as a father figure with Jack, and how he stepped up to Kelly and then to Jack, and even when it puts him at odds with Sam and Dean, he really delivers on that. Tawdra, you're nodding.
That's what I was going to say. For me, the last few seasons, that I love that whole Cass protecting Kelly and his relationship with Jack. It really is Cass in the having come full circle from Jimmy. You know, now he is the father figure to Jack, really, and I love that whole arc.
I feel like that was kind of a redemption for him too, because of the help he wasn't able to give the daughter, because Jimmy's daughter, because he never even occurred to him to do that. So you get Cass, the angel with no emotions, and then you get Cass trying to figure out emotions and like, do I do what they say? Do I do what heaven says? He doesn't have his own conscience. And then you see him develop his own conscience over time. And that's when he starts making decisions against Sam and Dean, not the bad decisions, but sometimes trying to help them when he sees them going down a wrong path. You see him kind of develop his humanity and develop his own sense of right and wrong. And it's really, really interesting to see. But then it is nice to have him, he gets to have that kind of parental moment. And I think that for him was a lot of redemption for all the things he didn't do with Claire.
And you can see the pitfalls in his relationship with Claire informed the decisions that he made in his relationship with Jack.
Like not letting him run away, not letting him, pushing, talking to him more about like his powers and what he can do and like it was a lot more guidance.
Mentoring him. Yeah.
Any other thoughts before we wrap up? Clearly, we could certainly do another panel on this, so I will look at making that happen. But and I apologize that we end up doing a bum's rush here on the last five seasons. But anything else anybody wants to touch on before we wrap up?
Do you guys feel like Cass got his proper ending? He got his proper, like when it all wrapped up? Because
no,
and I think we all have kind of mixed emotions about that. That's kind of what I've been hearing universally. And I keep seeing like now they're doing the prequel about Mary and John. And I'm like, I would have sold a kidney to help fund a Castiel prequel.
Right.
Like, what was his life like when he was full angel before Sam and Dean, about the war in heaven, because he was always a complicated, like he came down very, very straight and very much angel, but he always kind of had, I think, those tendencies when they talk about the past with him and the other angels talk about things he's done in the past. He always kind of had that a little bit more humanity, I think, than the others.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to do, Jensen's already said they're going to do a ton of other miniseries. So I think we might have an opportunity to see more of that in the past. But I know Misha's on board to play Cass for all of eternity. So that's definitely a thing. But for me, his ending was bittersweet because, his final speech and everything that went on through that really cemented his character and his character arc and his character's growth. But simply one voiceover line in the finale would have done him more service than anything that was given to him in that entire terrible episode.
I felt it was rushed and too abrupt, and okay, I get the sacrificing for the people that he loved, but boom, and it's done. And it just felt like he was kind of hustled off the stage. It was rushed for the significance of the character throughout the rest of the show.
Yeah, they opened a door, and I think most people know what I'm talking about with this speech. They opened a door, and it would have been lovely if they'd at least fleshed it out and maybe done something with it. But instead, they opened the door, and Dean slammed it shut. So,
well, I mean, it just went so fast that there wasn't much room to do anything except, well, he's gone. Yep. So again, we can blame the writers. Well, folks, we have blown through our time. Let's very quickly let everybody say where people can find you online, and then I've got to go run another panel. Amy?
Okay.
I blog for a major tech company, and I am currently working on LGBT and reproductive justice initiatives in Washington, D.C. So
awesome.
Hard to find me.
Casey?
The easiest place to find me is TikTok. My personal account is at @book_mama. And then I also have an ARC Reader account I'm building for people who want free books and authors who are trying to get more reviewers for their books. And that is at ARC Readers.
Okay, Tawdra.
TawdraKandle.com, and I'm on all social media, just under my name.
Great. Lola?
My name's Lola Lariscy. I'm all over the place. You can Google me. You'll either find me or a bunch of dead old ladies, and I'm related to all of them.
And I'm pretty easy to find if you look for either of my names on all of social media, but most of the time you can find me here on Continual. So thank you all so much. We definitely have to come back and spend some more time with this topic. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There'll be more Supernatural coming up on Continual, so we'll see you online.